Allen Lund Company looks forward to seeing you at Matt's in March.
OOIDA, representing America's truckers since 1973, presents Landline Now with your host, Mark Reddick.
The trucking supply chain in Canada is in chaos right now. That's according to Stephen Laskowski, President and CEO of the Canadian Trucking Alliance. And the reason is uncertainty over tariffs. He'll join us to discuss the situation. It's only a very short time before the Mid-America Trucking Show takes place in Louisville, Kentucky. And every year, some of the biggest names in trucking show up. That includes Bryan Martin of the Chrome Shop Mafia. He'll tell us what he has planned. And finally, available freight and rates are up, according to Truckstop. We'll speak with Brent Hutto to break down the numbers and find out how strength is continuing to build in the market. And now, the news with Ashley Blackford.
Thanks, Mark. Family members of those who were killed or seriously injured in crashes involving Tesla's autonomous technology are voicing concerns. In a letter sent this week to Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy, 7 families stated that they are concerned that Elon Musk's role in the Trump administration will affect the Department of Transportation's oversight of autonomous vehicles. The families want Duffy to fully investigate Tesla's autopilot and full self-driving features. They're also asking that Duffy maintain the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration's standing general order that requires companies to report crashes involving vehicles equipped with automated driving systems. Duffy said during his confirmation hearing in January that Musk's connection to the White House would not prevent NHTSA from investigating Tesla. According to NHTSA's data, more than 1,800 crashes involving Tesla's autopilot and full self-driving features have been reported since 2019. A jury took just 1 hour to deliberate before finding 2 men guilty who were involved in the smuggling conspiracy in Texas, where 53 migrants died in a hot trailer. The U.S. Attorney's Office for the Western District of Texas says that Felipe Orduna Torres and Armando Gonzalez Ortega will face up to life in prison. A release from the U.S. Attorneys state that the migrants came from Guatemala, Honduras, and Mexico and had paid between $12,000 and $15,000 to be smuggled into the United States. When they made it to the border in Laredo, they were placed in a semi-trailer that had no method of cooling the air inside for a 3-hour drive to San Antonio. When the trailer was finally opened, 48 people had died. 16 were taken to the hospital, where 5 more died. The attorney for the Western District of Texas said after the verdict that the 2 defendants knew that the trailer lacked any kind of cooling. Orduna Torres was the leader of the smuggling group outside the country, and Gonzalez Ortega was his right-hand man, according to the attorney. Their sentencing is scheduled for June 27th. Freight continues to gain strength in the spot market. Brent Hutto with Truckstop says things are starting to climb in the right direction.
If I look at the numbers, I just look at the numbers and go, it's really still pretty strong. And what I mean by strong is that it's not weak against the things that owner-operators and small fleet owners need to really run their business, which is freight, freight, freight. There's freight in the marketplace. So when we talk about this data, so 2 weeks ago, the freight was 15% above the 5-year average. The freight available to owner-operators in the spot market was 15% above. Well, it held true last week. It was actually above. It was like 5 or 6% above the previous week. So there's freight available, and that's the good thing. The other thing is rates went up. They went up overall about 6 cents from $2.33 to $2.39. Remember, that's the posted rate. Please negotiate.
For more from Brent Hutto, stay tuned to later in our show for today's market update. Tomorrow is the deadline to get your comments in on the broker transparency proposal. This is your chance to let the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration know whether it should move forward with its proposal to strengthen existing broker transparency regulations. For more information and to comment, you can visit fightingfortruckers.com, or we'll have a direct link on our website at landlinenow.com. If you've received a text message recently for unpaid tolls, it's likely a scam. Oregon, Washington, and Minnesota are among the latest states to advise customers of fraudulent communications via text message. In a news release, the Oregon Department of Transportation reminds drivers it does not have a toll program. Additionally, if the Oregon DMV sends communication via text message, it will never include links to verify personal information. Washington state officials advised toll road customers not to click any unknown links. Minnesota officials said not to respond to texts or emails claiming to be from EasyPass about unpaid tolls. They added that EasyPass will never text or email you for personal information. OOIDA has also received similar scam texts and emails from those claiming to be affiliated with the Missouri DOT. Missouri, like Oregon, has no toll road system. 8 drivers were detained and multiple commercial tractor trailers were seized recently after several attempts were made to smuggle cocaine into the country through the Otay Mesa port of entry. U.S. Customs and Border Protection says the seizures happened between Tuesday, March 4th and Wednesday, March 5th. In total, more than 240 pounds of cocaine were seized. The 8 individuals who were visa-holding drivers were apprehended after officers discovered the drugs. They've since been turned over to the custody of Homeland Security investigations for further processing. The narcotics and commercial tractor trailers were seized by CBP officers. An $8.4 billion transportation plan has been unveiled in Massachusetts. The money is intended to improve roads and bridges. News Channel 13 reported that Governor Maura Healey announced the funding and said that the plan focuses on long overdue repairs and climate resilience in the Berkshire and surrounding communities.
I recognize that Berkshire County contributes more than their share to our state's tourism economy, cultural output, natural resources, and food production. You deserve a better deal from the state than you had been getting over decades. Communities need better protection from severe wind and flooding, and ultimately, this region needs and deserves more attention and more investment from the state to these needs than ever before.
During her announcement, the governor assured residents that there would be no tax increases and that this transportation initiative would be fully funded through existing revenue streams. If you're traveling through Chicago, be sure to lock your doors. Chicago police have issued an alert for the south and southwest sides of the city. CBS News reports that there's been a string of thefts involving large trucks. The thefts began last month and have continued. Police say individuals have been stealing CPU and GPS tracking devices. Anyone with information is asked to contact police. And finally, Kenworth has announced it's ending production on W900, T800, and C500 models. In a release, the company announced it will end production on these Class 8 trucks because of evolving emissions regulations and component constraints as the industry moves forward with new, more efficient, and better integrated technologies and products. A final call for truck orders will be announced later this year. That's Landline Now News for today. I'm Ashley Blackford.
Thanks, Ashley. Are you one of the many truckers who's had a broker spring endless fees on you when you did your job and you got the load delivered? One way you can combat these problems is by making those transactions transparent. And now, the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration is proposing a rule that would do just that. It's easy to do your part and make your views known. You can file comments or find a guide about how to make your views on the proposal known to FMCSA at the website fightingfortruckers.com. Again, that website, fightingfortruckers.com. Next, Scott Thompson discusses tariffs and the supply chain in Canada with Stephen Leskowski of the Canadian Trucking Alliance. And I'll get an overview of what 4 State Trucks has planned for the Mid-America Trucking Show from Bryan Martin of the Chrome Shop Mafia. We'll be back in just a moment with more news and information. Please stay with us. I'm Mark Reddick, and this is Landline Now.
Protect your diesel engine with Howe's Diesel Defender. Restore vital lubricity, eliminate injector deposits, and boost fuel economy by 5% or more. Power performance protection, all in one. Howe's Diesel Defender, available now.
Firestone's FD694 drive tire for long haul and regional applications now delivers 126,000 more removal miles than the Yokohama TY517 MC2. Contact your Firestone commercial dealer to learn more.
Are you tired of the IRS following you around like a dark cloud? Call 888-557-4020 and get your life back.
Welcome back. We talk a lot on the show about the U.S. freight market, but admittedly don't give as much attention to the situation north of the border. We're going to change that right now with the help of our next guest. We've got plenty to talk about with Steve Laskowski. He's the president of the Canadian Trucking Alliance, and he joins us on the line now. Steve, welcome to Landline Now.
Thanks a lot for having me on the show today, Scott.
I know you're always busy with something. Something tells me you might be a little busier than normal right now, and I think I know the answer to this next question here, but I'm going to ask it anyway. If you were to take out your to-do list right now as we speak, your list of priorities right now, what's at the top?
You know, I think everything related to trade with the United States and Canada. You know, it's the lifeblood of our industry here in Canada, and quite frankly, the lifeblood of our entire domestic economy. And that's under question right now. And myself, being the spokesperson for the Canadian Trucking Alliance, and many other industries in Canada that we move product for, are laser focused in on ensuring that our longstanding trade agreement and relationship with the United States remains strong. That means our members stay strong, and that means our economy stays strong. So that's job number one. And within that job, there are a whole bunch of issues that are tied to this matter, and we're working diligently on them.
And I think the issue, the elephant in the room right now is the tariff situation and sort of the back and forth that's going on right now between your country and the United States. You recently put out a statement that said, essentially, the trucking supply chain is in chaos right now, and I'm putting quotation marks around that. Just your initial response to what's going on right now. What are your concerns? What are you hearing from your members right now as it relates to the tariff situation and the concerns that they have?
You know, I think it's right across the board. I've been in the trucking industry for over 30 years, and, the supply chain comes under stress, whether it's through economic matters or social matters or political issues. There's always stress points and momentary episodes of crisis in the supply chain. But I've never seen anything quite like this. With regards to, major corporations that are our customers of our members scrambling day to day to react and shift how they operate in the supply chain within 24 hours. Within the trucking industry, if you're not growing, getting more competitive and pivoting, then you're not going to survive. But we're pivoting, 90 degrees every other day. Let's get more trucks over the border. Let's cancel those loads. That's not a sustainable and the right way to continue to do business. I think business community on both sides of the border understand that, whether it's trucking or our customers. And, I think that working through these issues will get this resolved so we can continue to benefit on both sides of the border. And that's critical to this. This isn't just about Canadian trucks and Canadian jobs. It's about American trucks and American jobs. And, I think more and more people are understanding that, and more people are working towards that common goal.
You mentioned something there that you've got different carriers that are scrambling right now and trying to figure out how to operate and how to navigate the situation right now. What are they doing? What does that look like? What are the changes that they're making to their everydays to kind of, again, adjust to this new situation that's popped up?
I think all of us in the industry know that, that in a normal economy, there's an ebb and flow to the work week. You never know quite exactly how many loads you're going to have on Monday, but, you during the months and times of the year based on your company base, your customer base, you have an understanding of the weeks and months that lie ahead and where you'll be more busy and perhaps where there'll be a bit of a quiet period. Right now, what's frantic is the ramp up, quite frankly, to avoid tariffs. And then in other ways where customers are just saying, just hold the loads. So you are expecting to move significant quantities or quantities, period, and now they're put on hold. And that can vary depending on region and province and commodity. It's not a way to run our business. That when I say our business, the collective North American economy, which is so integrated, and that is the scrambling and the chaos, not knowing what is expected of you, how much is going to be expected of you, what the demands are. Are you going to receive this product? You want me to bring this to a warehouse that you're trying to acquire to put this product in? Do you want my trailers? All of these, which would normally not be as chaotic, is chaotic.
Yeah, and I know, again, I think what you're talking about here is an uncertainty, not really knowing where we're headed here. And that can be a very frustrating place to be in, especially when, as you pointed out there, you're trying to make plans for your business and you've got kind of a standard operating procedure and the things normally, the way that things normally go are not going that way. What advice are you giving people as they try to navigate this situation? Because, we don't really know where we're headed here. And I'm not quite sure anybody does at this point. But what exactly are you telling your members about kind of how to navigate what we're seeing right now?
It's difficult to Scott to really answer that. There is no silver bullet here in terms of what to say. We are collateral damage in these major discussions between the White House and our Prime Minister's office. This is major discussions going on, and how it's resolved will impact all of us that are listening on here, so whether you're American or Canadian. I think what we're telling our members is what other major associations are doing, and let's focus in on what we can do. Executive orders have been issued with regards to concerns at the border with regards to security. So what we're telling our members is then we need as an industry to make sure that we are doing everything to meet those security demands. And we're more than happy to do it. We're committed to it. So I think what we can do is focus on what we can deliver to ensure that our partnership remains strong and moves forward.
Yeah. I sense
control. I guess, Scott, control what you can control.
Right. Yeah. And again, I think the point of all of this right now, as we sit here and talk right now, is we don't know exactly how this is all going to shake out. Obviously, there are negotiations going on at very high levels. So we'll see how it all pans out. But again, the uncertainty, I think, is kind of the underlying issue here in not knowing exactly how to handle what we may be heading into now. Your alliance did recently call on the council to the Federation. This is comprised of the 13 premiers of Canada's provinces and territories to essentially step in and do something. What are you hoping that they'll be able to do to help alleviate some of these concerns that you're having?
So I think, one of the things, items in our country that has gripped the business community, premiers, and the cabinet in Ottawa is, the state of Canadian competitiveness and productivity. It's highlighted a weakness that we've had for at least the last 8 to 10 years, and it's increasingly getting weak. So we as a business community have said to the premiers and the transport ministers across Canada, it is now time to focus in on removing whether it's trade barriers or regulatory barriers or enforcing the underground economy to get us stronger. Allow our industry to get stronger. Get stronger on the tax side. Get stronger on the labor side. There are issues that can be addressed. Address them. This is a crisis, so now it is an opportunity when a crisis occurs that really highlights and provides laser focus to both industry and government. in this age of social media, Scott, we seem to have a 24-hour attention span. The hope now amongst industry, particularly my industry, that we remain focused on improving our productivity and competitiveness. Is you improve the productivity and competitiveness of the trucking industry in both of our great nations, well, you're going to have a stronger economy, you're going to have a stronger supply chain, and you're going to have a lot of happy Americans and Canadians, because we have thousands, hundreds of thousands of people in Canada working in the trucking industry. So let's get some common sense. Let's focus in on what really matters. Let's fix the problems, focus on fixing the problems, and making ourselves better. So one of the, I hate that we use the word side benefit out of this, Scott, because there's so much at stake here, is that it's focused the attention of politicians on issues that really matter to our members, and let's take the opportunity to fix it. Let's not just talk about it.
Yeah, well said. Speaking of things that need fixing, I want to talk to you and shift gears here, talk to you about Driver Inc. It's something that's, I know, front of mind for your alliance there. We've talked about it here on the show before, but some of our American listeners may not be familiar with Driver Inc. We are quite familiar with misclassification concerns here, but can you tell us what Driver Inc. is, why you view it as such a problem, and what's going on with the latest there?
Sure. So I guess, Driver Inc. is just an industry name for the underground economy. Underground economy has been healthy in both of our countries for decades. It is flourishing in Canada in the trucking industry. It is our opinion that it is the number one home of the underground economy. And what drives it? Exactly what you just said, misclassification. Both of our industries rely on the owner-operator community and independent contractors. But independent contractor, under Canadian law is pretty simple. You own the truck or make legitimate lease payments. What's happened here in Canada is a portion of the tax code called the personal service business, which is legal, has been abused and is part of a scam in the underground economy that's shifted over to misclassification under the Canada Labour Code. And in essence, owners who are really the ones benefiting from this have about a 30% cost advantage. So anyone who's in trucking knows a 30% cost advantage, well, you're going to control the market. You're driving good, hardworking people out of business. You're driving legitimate owner-operators out of business. And it's just flat out wrong. And the problem with all of this, Scott, which is incredibly frustrating for the Canadian industry, there's not a darn law that they need to bring in to enforce this. They have all the laws, and they've allowed this to flourish. It's now well beyond a problem. It's a crisis in our country for every legitimate trucking owner, for every legitimate truck driver who enjoys working for good companies that get their benefits and their labor laws, and who have benefits, quite frankly, in our country, education and healthcare systems that are paid by our tax purposes. So part of this crisis is to wake our Canadian government up and to say, hey, we've had a 25 to 30% tariff for over a decade. It's called the underground economy. And you got two trucking industries, one that's compliant and one that operates under unscrupulous principles. And, part of our hope here, again, is that this crisis is bringing attention to this, and we'll fix it. And we'll get the political will to fix it.
Yeah, from crisis comes opportunity, as you said earlier, and I think this is a situation that, bears that out as well there. Steve, we'll have to leave it there, unfortunately, but we do really appreciate your time, appreciate your work up there, and hopefully we'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks a lot, Scott, for the opportunity. Take care of yourself.
Our thanks to Steve Laskowski, president of the Canadian Trucking Alliance. We'll step out now for a quick break, but there's more Landline Now coming your way right after this.
Dispatch, I picked up that load of steel, so I'm ready to roll.
Sounds good. Remember, we're getting paid by weight, so make sure to use a cat scale.
I wouldn't weigh anywhere else.
Forget misaccuracy when you're truck on a cat scale.
Penske is the trusted source for quality used trucks. Whether you search our website, call our sales staff, or bid at our online auction, you are sure to find the right used truck for your business. Visit PenskeUsedTrucks.com to view our inventory and learn more.
Landline Now. Thanks for joining us today. I'm your host, Mark Reddick. It's time for another installment of Mafia Secrets, Advice from the Boss Man, with Bryan Martin of 4 State Trucks, home of the Chrome Shop Mafia. And I'm on the line with Bryan Martin, the boss man at Joplin, Missouri's Chrome Shop Mafia. Bryan, how are you doing?
You know what? We're doing okay down here in Joplin. You off to a good start today?
Absolutely, absolutely. We're always off to a good start here.
Well, there was that one day.
There was.
One day
there
back
was.
in 1993. You know, it was a Wednesday. It was. No, I hear you. Yeah. Hey, we're on the top side of the soil, so they say that's a good day.
That is a good day, sir. But, of course, we've got something big coming up here that's exciting. Starting on March 27th, we've got the Mid-America Trucking Show down in Louisville, Kentucky at the Kentucky Expo Center there. And Bryan, of course, a lot of our folks really do know the show pretty well, but there's always those people that are new to the business and don't know. Can you kind of describe what Mid-America is and why it's so significant in trucking?
Sure. We've been going down there. I was counting not too long ago. We've been there, I think, 24 years. And this show was taking place well before that. That's just when 4 State Trucks and myself kind of got our start. But when you look at trucking trade shows, now there's a lot of great truck shows that are at county fairgrounds, city squares. There's a lot of like show and shines. But when you talk about true trade shows, like full industry-wide events, Louisville is the big cat daddy. I mean, it is the Super Bowl of those type events, and really one of the remaining big boys that's still taking place this day and age. You know, Dallas went by the wayside a few years back, and I don't know, Mark, if you can remember, but remember when they had Baltimore, they had Vegas.
Yep.
And there was several of these. I mean, 4, 5, maybe 6 of them in a year's time, and it's literally down to Louisville and then a few small, like trucking association shows that just don't measure up to Mid-America Truck Show. But not only is it the Super Bowl of those type events, but it also kind of kicks off, being in late March, it kind of kicks off the truck show season. You're going to see truck shows, every month from about March till, I'd say, October, wouldn't you?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. In fact, I think if you count some of them that happen way down south, there's some that even peak up in November still. So, but boy, so, October, they're mostly done.
Yes, and Louisville kind of kicks it all off down at Mid-America in March. Another neat thing, if you haven't been, I mean, pretty much anything for a truck or trailer, whether it's tires, oil, software, ELDs, a new insurance carrier. If you're looking for a new lease, you're an owner-operator and you want to lease on somewhere. I mean, for crying out loud, there's probably somebody there selling valve caps for your tires, for the valve stems, from finite to big things, trailers, engines, seating, parts, like that's primarily what we'll be there doing, is selling our parts and accessories and kind of meeting and greeting with customers. But it's a huge show. I think I've read literature. It's 12, 14 acres under roof, 70,000 people plus usually attend. And then you've got the PKY, Paul K. Young Memorial Truck Show, where all the guys bring out their working-class show trucks. And some, at this event, you will see some professional. I mean, I'm going to just say it. You're going to see some Trailer Queen trucks there that are just off the charts, exotic, cool, with all the latest and greatest paint and electronics and design and things of that nature. But they also have that out in front of the convention center, and you can spend a whole day and night, because you're going to get the light show at night, but you can spend a day and a night just at the PKY before you go inside and spend 2 days indoors on the different exhibitors and booths and displays and things of that nature. So if you're involved in trucking or a trucking enthusiast or a truck owner, you definitely got to put it on your bucket list, even if you're not going to make it this year.
And you mentioned something there, that the truck beauty competition is out in front of the Expo Center now. It used to be behind the West Wing, but the show, even though it's still bigger than any of the other shows were, is not quite as big as it used to be. I guess the West Wing will not be used as part of the show this year, which really blew me away when I heard it. And of course, I always like to talk about back in the day because I'm old now. And I remember that some of the truck manufacturers, and they don't seem to go so much anymore, but some of their booths were bigger than entire other truck shows, just one booth. You know, you'd have just amazing things there, dozens of tractors out there on display and so on. It's still something worth going to, though. This is still the Super Bowl. Bryan, what is the first thing you look for when you get to Louisville? What is the thing that you make a beeline for when you hit the Expo Center?
Well, I got to tell you, it's the PKY. We see a lot of old friends, current customers. We obviously work on some trucks. We're working on some right now for customers that are going to be outside and enter their trucks in the PKY. But it's just such a cool gathering of really, it's probably the most prestigious of truck shows. It's very intricately, very highly judged, very judged on everything from driver presentation to theme, certainly down to the tiniest of details on show prep and cleanliness and, you know, alignment. Is everything clocked and the tires lined up, you know? And don't get me wrong, you can enter the PKY and you can just enter and have fun and really not be uber prepared for the optimum score in judging. You can still enter and go down there and just have a good time, which traditionally, back when I was entering trucks in PKY, is exactly what I did. I'm just not the type that's going to lay underneath them for 48 hours cleaning every little widget and thing. I was more for the gathering and the camaraderie than the actual first place, second place, third place trophy. But to each his own. We need those that are fiercely competitive, and we need those that are there just to show off their truck and have a good time. So there's a place for all. But my first gotta-go see is the PKY, and just walk through it briefly and kind of say hey to everybody, see what I think's the top 10 or 15, and then sometime during the course of Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I'll make my way back out there several times and take a closer look at some of those that really kind of blew me away on that first walkthrough.
Yeah, it's interesting. You mentioned that you can go and just bring your truck, but I have seen some of those folks go to the nth detail. And the one that always strikes me is when I see someone out there with like a white pen of some kind, and they're re-whiting the lettering on the sides of the tires so it's just perfect. That's detail.
Yeah. And it goes even further. You'll see that. There's probably going to be 150 to 200 trucks out there this year, I suspect. Don't quote me on that. But you're going to see 40 of them outlining their tires. But you'll probably see, and I know you have, Mark, you'll see some of them that literally bring, say, purple carpet, 80 feet long and 15 feet wide, and they roll the carpet out, and then they put their truck and trailer on top of it.
Yep.
They've got, a signboard that goes in this corner, and, a toolbox that goes in that corner. Like, they really make a presentation out of it, and it's something to see. Even if it's not your style, you have to commend the dedication, the planning ahead, and the effort that goes into some stuff like that.
Yeah, and of course, I agree with you. That is a big part of Matt's. But there are still two major-sized interior halls just full of stuff there. Are there any things of the things on the inside that are on your must list besides, Paul K. Young?
Well, not really. I mean, you kind of want to take time to hit almost every aisle of the north and south wing. Now, traditionally, they've had the west wing for the last 24 years that I've been going down there. And the west wing, I'm not going to say it's your up-and-comers. There's a lot of well-established companies that have always been in the west wing, and they've been content there. Their customer base knows to find them there. And the west wing is really cool because it's such a diverse mix of vendors and products and companies. It really had like a vibe all its own, and it was a lot of fun to walk through that. It was always extremely busy, kind of tight, kind of crowded, but that almost lent to the experience, It was almost like running through an airport type deal. But at the West Wing, because of construction, it's gone. And so all of those vendors have been incorporated somewhere into the north and south wing. So it really ought to have a whole different feel this year to the north and south wings. They're expansive. They're big. You can probably spend 4, 5, 6 hours in each wing if you was of a mind to do so, or you can rip through them pretty quick and probably spend 2.5 hours in each wing. But like I said, there's going to be trailer manufacturers, toolboxes, transmission rebuilders, performance tuners, anything you can think of far and away, tons of lighting, truck seating. The manufacturers will be there as well as people like us that sell their products. So it's something to stand in the middle of those two wings and just think, wow, our industry, trucking, it's pretty doggone big. Like, it's a staggering presentation of people involved in the industry that are passionate about the industry and really count on the industry to make their living.
We got a couple of minutes left, and one thing I wanted to make sure we talked about, of course, is where are you going to be? Where is the Chrome Shop Mafia and 4 State Trucks going to be there in the Kentucky Expo Center?
Well, we're going to be about 80 yards from the OIDA booth. Do you know where that's at, Mark?
I do. Actually, it's in a little different place this year. It's over in the East Hall.
Okay, well, yeah, you have moved on me, but traditionally we were about 70, 80 yards from you guys. We're in the north wing, kind of towards the south end, but really, if you look for Lincoln Chrome, Trucks Accessories, Iowa Customs, Lifetime Nut Covers, we're right there in our own little neighborhood of chrome and accessory providers, and we're not far from the Mercer booth, which is kind of a well-known landmark in there because they kind of set it up like an old-fashioned diner, lots of booth seating. We're not far from them. And right over there in the north wing, I want to say our booth number is 14240. And as president of 4 State Trucks, I should know, but don't quote me on that. Just look for the huge Chrome Shop Mafia 4 State Tommy gun about 15, 18 foot up in the air and head that direction.
And, of course, if you're going to go to Matt's, you have to have a pork chop sandwich.
You do. It's customary. As a matter of fact, before the weekend's over, you may have 2 or 3 of them because the concessions at Louisville, and this has been this way for a decade, and a fact is a fact. The concessions there are expensive, and they're not very tasty, but the pork chop sandwich stands alone, and it is some of the best eats on site, so you got to have one.
Absolutely. Well, we got maybe 20 seconds left here, Bryan. Anything else about Matt's that you want to let people know?
No, come over and see us. We'll have a lot of the guys and gals from our sales force that don't traditionally get to leave the store. And a lot of you folks that shop with us, you call in and talk to them. So this will give you a chance to put a face with a name. I know our crew really looks forward to going down there just for that reason. They get to see a lot of cool trucks. They get to see some of their vendors that they sell products for, but most of all, they get to connect with customers. So come by and see us. We're going to have a lot of action in the booth, a lot of sales and giveaways. We got a lot of new products there this year, so definitely come over, spend 20, 30 minutes with us, and say, hey, we'd love to see you. We look forward to seeing you, hopefully, as much as you look forward to seeing us.
Rock and roll. Bryan, thank you very much. Take care.
All right, we'll see you soon.
If you have questions, you can call 4 State Trucks at 1-888-875-7787. Or you can go to their website, 4statetrucks.com. That's the number 4, statetrucks.com. We'll be right back. I'm Mark Reddick, and this is Landline Now.
At Truckstop, we built a better load board for carriers like you. Sign up today and access over 600,000 loads on the most trusted online load board. Learn why the best in the business rely on Truckstop to make more money and start driving your profit today.
Capital Reman, the leader in remanufactured diesel engines and components, has partnered with OOIDA to offer exclusive member benefits. Visit capitalreman.com today to support America's transportation industry and take advantage of your benefits.
Since you started, what you've loved about trucking is the freedom. Heading out on your favorite route, a good driving song, and thinking about truck insurance. Well, maybe not that last one. That's why we're here. At OOIDA, we have a full range of truck insurance products, expert advice, and great customer service, helping you get the right coverage for your operation. Go to OOIDA.com because your job is to drive. Our job is to help with everything else.
Landline Now, welcome back. If you're hauling freight and running your own business, you need to keep track of some basic facts and figures that can determine whether you succeed or fail. And that includes finding the freight and how much money you can make hauling it. Today, Landline Now's Ashley Blackford will bring us some of that information and get some insight as to why things are happening with the folks from Truckstop.com. Here's Ashley now with a report.
Thanks, Mark, and hello to Brent Hutto with Truckstop. Brent, I want to jump right into the current market conditions, and I have to say I am a huge fan of your song choice this week.
Absolutely. The Climb by Hannah Montana, or better known as Miley Cyrus. I know her as Hannah Montana. I mean, some people probably know her as Miley Cyrus. To me, it's Hannah Montana. I mean, she's got the best of both worlds. I mean, come on. That's what trucking's all about. No, I loved it. I chose the song because I just thought about, okay, well, where are we in the current freight cycle? And I've been listening to all these big players, and you know, when you got 300 or 500 or 2,000 or something, and you know, it's a little bit different when you've got 1 or 5. But either way, the importance is not different. It's just your scale is different. So I've chose to climb because that's kind of where we are. Our market's going to continue to climb back, but the marketplace kind of look. If I look at the numbers, I just look at the numbers and go, it's really still pretty strong. And what I mean by strong is that it's not weak against the things that owner-operators and small fleet owners need to really run their business, which is freight. There's freight in the marketplace. 2 weeks ago, the freight, when you and I talked last week, because remember, for all the Landline listeners, I'm always looking back the previous 7 days. So when I say the data today, I really mean the data from last week, which, by the way, Ash, and this is what's so cool, it's the freshest data, and I like to say it this way, it's the freshest data in the universe. Because there's no other freight, and I'm telling you, I'm talking about even economic data. Any day you see in the world, it's a reflection of $1 trillion marketplace, and it's only 7 days old. You can't find data like that. Usually it's 30, 60, 90. If it's government, it's 6 months old. It's not bad. It's just what's called lagging. It's way behind the curve. So when we talk about this data, so 2 weeks ago, the freight was 15% above the 5-year average. The freight available to owner-operators in the spot market was 15% above. Well, it held true last week. It was actually above. It was like 5 or 6% above the previous week. So there's freight available, and that's the good thing. The other thing is rates went up. They went up overall about 6 cents from $2.33 to $2.39. Remember, that's the posted rate. Please negotiate. Every owner-operator, me and Ashley are talking. We're arm in arm. Okay, we're telling you negotiate, no matter what you do, because if you know, and that's $2.39. That's the overall market rate. Well, van, if you look at van, it actually went down 5 cents, which is it didn't need to because it was already at $1.91. We need that van freight at around $2 to $2.20, somewhere in there. For it to have more opportunity because van freight is very competitive and a little bit harder to make a profit on because the rates tend to be a little bit lower. But flatbed went up 7 cents. It went up from $2.40 to $2.47, which is it's not great, but it's healthy enough to make profit at. Refrigerated went down a couple of pennies, but refrigerated has been kind of all over the place. The good thing is fuel went down 1 cent, and we're going to see this back and forth until the overall current administration's policy on energy, which petroleum is part of the energy policy, really gets set. And that's going to probably not be to the end of this year is my guess. That's Brent Hutto's guess. That's, your guy from Alabama's guess. But it just takes a while. Petroleum is a giant. So, but the current encouraging thing, this is something, Ashley, you and I look at a lot when we talk to these owner-operators about, is the contract rate that's being renegotiated or rejected, called the outbound tender reject index, if you want the scientific term. It's still above 5%, and it went down. It was 6% last week, a little over 6% last week, went down to 5%. So it dropped a little bit, but it's still above 5%, which means the marketplace for the 24th straight week has been above 5%. That's good for every owner operator. Listen to this. That's a great number because that means strength is continuing to build in our market that's been weak against the things that you need, which is basically overall profitability when it comes to rates. So that's super important. It's still like a third. By the just and look, there's another thing when you're looking at data. You don't have to be a data geek to understand this. You always look at what's the data this year at this week, and what was the data last year at this week. Well, the data this week is 5.34%. Is being rejected. Last year, it was 3.77. If you compare those numbers, the freight that's going to be coming to our market is still 30% above what it was last year. So that's a really good thing because it's always about the freight. The more freight we have, the more opportunity there is for owner-operators for the price to go up and for you to negotiate it. So that's why you want to look at these things. And I'm just telling you that it's so important. Every trucker out there, I know, look, you drive a truck, you want freedom. I want freedom too. I love being out on the road. But if you'll look at this data, it takes 5 minutes to look at it every single week. When you're negotiating, you'll have the same information that the brokers or your shippers do. Shippers probably don't even have it. They're not, but the broker does, and you can negotiate better with them at a fair amount. And that's really what's the most important part of it.
All right. What are some of the top regions and lanes from last week?
Yeah. What's going on with that? Well, you could imagine that with freight continuing to gain strength, if you look at the overall regions and stuff, so you've got several regions were kind of down, like Mountain Central was down, Midwest was kind of even, but the West Coast was up, South Central was up, Southeast was up, and Northeast was up. So freight availability in those areas was up, which means you can negotiate better because there's usually more pressure. When freight is up, you can negotiate better. So everywhere in the country was up except Mountain Central and the Midwest. And look, remember, this is a spot market. It changes week to week. Heck, it changes day to day, Ashley. So always just be paying attention. What does it look like for that day? And then so when you look at what the rates were in those areas, you can see that those actually, even though Mountain Central was down in freight, it was up in pricing. Midwest was down in pricing, but Southeast, Northeast, and West Coast and Mountain Central, so all but one region were up in pricing. So what does that tell you if you're an owner-operator? Negotiate. Know your numbers. Please know your numbers. Negotiate. Because you can. So you put that pressure back on them. And so some of the other things that as far as the market conditions going on right now are so what was going on in van? Well, we're still looking at Texas. Out of Texas is still strong. It was the number one. The biggest increase in van was 17% from Houston to Los Angeles. Obviously, that's a pretty nice long haul. It increased. It was a low rate. It was $1.29 to $1.51. So that's a tough rate right there. But Miami to Tampa, that's obviously in within the state haul, was up 15%, $1.64 to $1.69. Another Miami to Jacksonville. So some of the Miami freight seems to be in the market. So again, it's important if you look at the markets. Flatbed, pretty good increases. Houston again, Laredo, and again, we've talked about Salt Lake a lot. Salt Lake seems to have a lot of increases in their freight, but anywhere from 18% to 27% increase from week to week. Now, remember, I'm talking about week to week in the rates. So that's cool. If you were moving the freight from Houston to Amarillo, it went up from 267 to 338. Well, that's good freight. That's good profit. That's good profitability. Granted, it's Texas is a big state, so there's good distance. It was 609 miles. So, and then you look at refrigerated freight, even bigger increases in there, even though the rates dropped a little bit overall nationwide. You've got Denver to Albuquerque. I do like Albuquerque a lot, by the way. I kind of like just saying the name, but it increased 48%, $1.96 to $2.90 week over week. That's a huge increase in that lane. That's a huge increase in any lane. But for $1.96 to $2.90, that's a big increase. But again, Houston, Dallas, Houston were the next ones, and those were 26 to 47% too. So know your lanes, know your conditions. If you know those things, man, life is a whole lot more fun when you're driving up and down the highway.
All right, Brent, thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. You're welcome.
That was Brent Hutto with Truckstop. For more information on Truckstop and what they offer, you can visit truckstop.com or call 1-800-203-2540. Truckstop, along with OOIDA, will be at the Mid-America Trucking Show coming up next week. For Landline Now, I'm Ashley Blackford. Mark, back to you.
Thanks, Ashley. That's our program for today. Thank you for joining us. I'm Mark Reddick, and this is Landline Now.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you want more content, go to landline.media to get updated news, information, and archived editions of our show. Once again, that's landline.media.
I'm a dad.
A son.
A husband.
Wife.
I'm a writer.
Photographer.
I farm. I'm a veteran. I love old cars. Fishing.
My kids.
Chrome. And I am a professional truck driver.
And together, we are OOIDA.
OOIDA was founded by truckers to stand up and speak on behalf of truckers. We've done that by combining the individual voices of our members into a single, powerful voice. Protecting your interests, defending your rights.
Join us! Make your voice heard. Join OOIDA, the Owner-Operator Independent Drivers Association. Call 1-800-444-5791 or visit OOIDA.com.